Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or I should say good morning. I have to get used to saying good morning.
Yeah.
Because MCAT has changed their hours for taping this show.
Yep, and I couldn't see myself, so I could slightly move this. All right. Couldn't see myself. I like to see myself.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, and affectionately on my left, we have our aging rocker, Emmett. Emmett and I are going to do a one-on-one today, and just have a normal conversation. Linda's not here today, but she'll be back soon. When the elections are over,
Yeah.
she'll have more time to start coming again regularly. So, how have you been?
I've been quite well. Still some allergies, but pretty much well.
Cool. Well, you can start us off if you want.
Heavenly Father, bless our food and time together in Jesus' name.
I'm in agreement.
Yep.
Let me adjust this here. And I know what I want to talk about today.
Wonderful.
I say this, I never get tired of playing this song.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
It is.
Oh, do you want some of the secret ingredients?
I'll take some of that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, yeah.
Thank you, Emmett.
Yeah.
And thanks for the sandwich, too.
Yes, certainly. Little thing. It is a cafe,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the history of this show in a moment.
All right.
I think I've ever told you.
I thought you did. You just a few years ago decided to do this and just kind of have a nice show.
Well, there's a little catch to it, though.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you about that in a moment.
Fascinating. To spin inside the spinning bird. I just want to do dishes. So I just put the dishes away. Spinning in the spinning dryer all day. Put the dish soap in and do some sweeping and some mopping. Because this is the type of music I listen to when I do house chores.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. And I sing stuff about like the spinning dryer.
There you go.
Yep, the spinning dryer. Yeah, I hate doing dishes by hand. I wish I had a dishwasher, but I don't,
I have a dishwasher in my hands.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've seen your dishwasher at home. It's fascinating. When we did that thing.
Yeah.
I talked to it. It's a very nice dishwasher. I got to talk to it. Isn't that
I'm going to stop on that note. Yeah, we had a joke when I was growing up, when people would ask us if we have a dishwasher, because we didn't at the time.
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, we have a dishwasher in my left and my right hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's our dishwasher.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about the history of Asaph Cafe, how this whole thing got started.
Yep.
Because I don't think people in TV land know how we got started. 2 years ago, when I was first working on that Lawrence Welk pilot.
Yes.
Before we shot that thing, we did what was called a promo. Luis and I, the lady that did the ballet dancing, I invited her here to the studio, and we did what was called a promo. And what that is we were telling the television audience that we were about to tape a new Lawrence Welk show when we were on camera. And I think I had those 2 brick walls there.
Yes.
And I just inadvertently, not even think, I just said, welcome to Asaph Cafe.
Amazing.
But it wasn't Asaph Cafe like we know it, because it was the promo to the Lawrence Welk show. And I had like 2 of these tables set up, and I had those 2 brick walls. And it sort of looked like a cafe at the time, so I just said, welcome to Asaph Cafe, and I didn't think anything about it. So we shot the promo, which was about an hour long, right? And then Joe said we had about 3 hours of recording time left after we did the promo.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, since we're going to do that and Luis is here, let's just call this Asaph Cafe, and we'll just spend some time recording. So I said, welcome to Asaph Cafe.
Wonderful, yeah.
So it's kind of an accident how it happened. And then after we used up that 3 hours recording time, I decided to call it a pilot for Asaph Cafe. And so next week, we started that series. And that's how Asaph Cafe came into existence.
Fascinating.
It was an accident. It was an unplanned accident when we said on the promo, welcome to Asaph Cafe. And then the week later, we started the series. And when we first did Asaph Cafe, it just had 2 brick walls and this table here. That's it.
Yep.
And at that time, I would invite I used to go downtown. I just invite people at random. It was unplanned. There was no Patty Reed at that time. There was no Emmett then. There was no Linda Brooks Curtis or any of the other people.
Yeah.
I would just go downtown and just say, hey, you want to be on TV? And it worked for a while.
Yeah.
And I think it was like during the summer and stuff like that. So, and then over time, I had to start planning because it was getting too hard to get people to come at random. And that's how Asaph Cafe was born.
Fascinating.
And you know, when I first created this show, I didn't think it was going to last. I thought I'd do maybe, a month or two, and it just fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
But as I started doing it, people started tuning in.
Yeah.
And then people started watching this. And it was just a conversation like what you and I are doing. I just tell people, all you do is just talk to me as I play the piano. That's it. No script, impromptu, just talk about whatever you want to talk about. And people actually started watching it in the beginning stages, and people started showing up, wanting to be on the show. And then Patty Reed, she eventually started coming. Then she started coming every week. This is before you started coming. And she would bring her dog Pee-wee, and it was just the cutest thing. And it just started evolving. And then we had those 2 brick walls. Eventually, we had 3 brick walls. And then it just started growing, and people started coming. And then, let's see, I think Linda Brooks Curtis came as an original guest with her friend Jack Weekman. And then all of a sudden, Linda started coming, and Patty started coming, and other people started coming, and it just started growing. And then Louise came on occasion. And then by the time we got to our 50th show, Mayor John Ingen was here.
Yes.
And it just took off.
Fascinating.
And then eventually you started coming. And and what was interesting is when you started coming, the show just, I think it started expanding even more.
Yeah.
Because of your own audience.
Oh, yeah.
You know, from your show.
Yeah.
Awful Truth About Society, and people started tuning in more, and then Professor Robert Greene he showed up a couple times, and it just skyrocketed. And so 2 years later, I'm really blessed to have this show, and now we started going virtual too. I think about almost a year now.
Virtual? I don't understand.
The screen.
Oh yeah.
Screen virtual.
Yeah.
And it's just been a delight. And we've talked about a lot of interesting things with guests over the years. When we did that 100th cafe, and
that was wonderful.
Did a look back. Sarah Tall Whiteman, she was my 3rd guest, Mrs. Sarah Tall Whiteman, at that time. And it was just been fun. We've had all kinds of people. I've had like people in my complex where I live, like Cheryl and Jim and BJ and Jeannie and Brian and all the rest. Colleen, she was here. These are our people who live in my complex.
Yeah, it was a really wonderful one when I did the one at your place. You have a beautiful place. That was wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm really blessed to have done this show all these years.
Yep.
I'll play this for you. I'm going to talk about time tunnel in a second.
I can't believe you're 5 months in advance. You're 20 episodes in advance. That's 5 months. You know, 5 months of new material.
This show has just been a blessing to me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the Lord's providence then.
Yeah, I do. I believe that too.
Yeah. It was no accident, you know.
Yeah, you're right. Because I just accidentally said Asaph Cafe originally in the promo. Beautiful song.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop right there. So praise God. He has given me this Asaph Cafe, and when I created this show, I wanted something simple. I'm not here to convert anybody or get politicized.
Right.
It's just a fun silly
show
where people sit. Like when you guys had a debate last week, that was so fun.
Yeah, that was.
Emmett and Scott had a debate last week. Which show was better, the original Star Trek, William Shatner, or Star Trek: The Next Generation? And see, things like that, that's just what's fun.
Exactly.
You know, just fun.
Yeah.
Because, there's so much of that negative stuff on
Yeah, there
television
is.
these days, all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Reality shows, which I'm not a fan of.
Nor am I, yeah.
And I make no secret about it. So when I created this show, I wanted it to just be fun, even if it's silly fun.
Exactly.
People have talked about mail order brides on this show. They have talked about soap operas. They've talked about, science fiction, which is fun. And
easy listening, which is
easy listening, and we've talked.
Easy listening, yeah.
Well, we did a couple of serious cafes over the years.
Yeah, we have.
We did that tribute to the 9/11 victims.
Yeah.
And the remembrance of Senator John Tester's family.
Yeah.
We did a few serious things. But overall, I just wanted to create a show that was just fun.
Yeah.
And I have people to this day coming up to me, watching this and enjoying it or wanting to be part of it and stuff like that. Just from an accident. So you're right. I think it's the Lord's providence. Like I stated, I just said, welcome to Asaph Cafe. And I hadn't even thought of this show at that time when I said it.
Exactly.
So, providence. God has blessed me. So I just wonderful. And I know you've been doing your show, 20 years now?
Yes.
So...
That's, of course, a completely different format that's very serious.
And I realize, your show is... Hey, let's talk about your show. How did you create your show? What was the...
That's easy. It was also Providence, I guess, as well. Thing is, back 20 years ago, I used to have a big mohawk leather jacket, really punked out, the whole thing. I needed a part-time job because I was laid off from 4Bs. Well, I assumed that there used to be a record store, tape store, whatever you want to call it, in the Southgate Mall called Disc Jockey. I often got punk rock tapes there, like Black Flag and some others, and I thought, well, maybe like the 70s, they'd hire someone with a mohawk. That we have punk rock tapes, I can show them what it is. There's rock and roll, there's heavy metal. They won't mind. They did. They said they weren't hiring at the time.
I see.
But they said, we won't hire anyone with a mohawk. And I said, well, what if I put a baseball cap on my head? And they said, nope, we still can't do it. And I said, but in the 70s,
said that to you? They really said to you,
yeah, exactly. And I said, but in the 70s, they would have done it. A lot of me said, they said, this isn't the 70s, this is the 90s. So I was sitting in Coffee Row, a coffee shop they had in Southgate Mall, and I said, this is a straw that's broken, this camel's back. I've heard of MCAT. I wonder if I couldn't get on that show on MCAT, and expose Disc Jockey and the awful treatment of punk rockers and a few other things about society that I hate. Work, school, everything. And I thought it would only last 15 shows.
Yeah, it seemed like with this cafe,
And they welcomed me in. I went to the orientation, and I got the show together, and it was just going to be a one-man thing, and I called it The Awful Truth About Society. And I thought it was just going to be 15. Then it was 20 more days, going to retire, but I did not know how to give it back and back and back and back.
That's the same with this cafe. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, at first, there was a lot of compliments and a lot of complaints. People would call in because they didn't have the internet and go, I love this show, or I hate this show. Who is this Elliot? Who views the programming? Who is this guy with this mohawk? You get him off the air. I don't like what he's saying about the schools. I don't like what he's saying about the government, and they hated my mohawk.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was cool. I've seen the film clips of it, and that's what I liked about it. And if we do that new Lawrence Welk show, I wish you had your hair like that then, because I could sure use that.
Yeah. I'd just rather be retired, because I am retired just because of health problems. I can't slam dance anymore. You couldn't give me an android body, could you, like Data? Because then I could be a punk rocker again.
Yeah, you could be an eternal punk rocker, It's like that Star Trek episode with Dr. Roger Corby. Remember, he was looking for immortality, and he put himself inside that robot body.
Yes.
But even though he put himself in the robot body, he still had the bad tendencies.
Yes.
So, well, that's science fiction for you. But that's really cool how you showed the history of your show. I didn't know that. How you
absolutely.
All from putting a job application in, huh?
Yeah, because they turned me down. They didn't even put one in. They just said I can't work here because of my mohawk and I have to shave it off. And they weren't even hiring. But that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And
well, there's something about our culture that says you have to look a certain way before you get a job, and I think that's stupid.
It is absolutely.
When I was 16 years old, and I think I told this story once before. I went into a restaurant, and there was an African-American manager there. And I had these yellow pants. They were bright yellow like cords because my family was going through some financial hardship at that time. And the manager just looked me up and down like this, and he goes, because I had asked him if I could put an application in, and he looked at me after sizing me up. He goes, "Young man, first of all, you think you're going to get a job in this restaurant with those pants on?" And he says, "You go home and you change your clothes and you come back, and then I'll give you an application." Oh, I was devastated.
Oh, absolutely.
I was crushed.
Yeah.
Because my first thought was, this man is making a judgment of me, and he doesn't know the circumstances.
Exactly.
He didn't know about the financial hardship stuff.
Yeah.
And from that experience, it bothered me that I didn't want to be conformed necessarily to these so-called rules of society.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I've talked about that on my show a lot.
Yeah, but that bothered me. I got
same
on that
here,
bus,
same here, yeah.
I was processing that, and it really bothered me that afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
That this manager cannot even give me an application to take home.
Yeah.
Because of the pants I was wearing.
Yeah.
Just like your mohawk.
Exactly.
I'm older now. I would have told him to myself, you can take and stick that job up, you know what.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, when you're 16 and young and you're impressionable and you want to conform and fit in.
Yeah.
And after a while, I just rebelled.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean breaking the law.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, rebel to the custom, the system that says you got to have your hair cut behind your ears.
Yeah.
You got to have such and such,
That's why I went punk, as a rebellion against all that, because I couldn't stand it and the rules of society. That's what the conformity.
Yeah, that conformity thing.
Yeah.
And I just decided I didn't want to be like everybody else and live by this so-called code or rules that you have to do certain things. If you're a certain age, you can't wear certain clothes. You can't have your hair long if you're 50. I don't know who makes these dumb rules up,
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. You'd make an excellent punk rocker because that's punk rock philosophy right there. Ever considered going punk rock? And
probably not now. I'm almost 60 years old.
Point.
I'm too old now. But see, the point is, even if I wasn't in the punk movement, I still had that same attitude.
Exactly.
That these certain things that you're supposed to do, I don't know who makes these rules up, but I just hated it.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to pick on this man, but there was this preacher I once knew.
Yeah?
He was a friend, and I respect him. God bless him. But he wouldn't let me play the piano in his church because he thought my hair was too long.
Yeah.
And I was like, seriously? Really? You're not going to let me play for the minister to people because you think my hair is too long?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I used to be a hippie myself. Out of high school, I just let my hair grow longer, and I had a long beard and a long hair. I was trying to be a hippie. Now, I had really conservative clothing like slacks. I really don't know how to be a hippie. But I was getting ragged on by that. And at 4B's, they said that if I would be fired from my job if I didn't cut my hair for my part-time janitorial job. It's ridiculous.
I know, and nobody even sees you in a janitorial job.
Well, I was in the daytime, so there were customer complaints,
But I've had that happen to me too. Like I used to work in a little cafe restaurant. This is a true story. Years ago, it was just one or two employees in this cafe, and the manager was a friend of mine, but she would have regular customers, and a lot of them used to complain about me because they didn't like the way I looked.
Yeah.
And I was like serving them or the best worker.
Yeah.
But they're so busy about how I physically look, and they would complain to the manager, not knowing that this manager was a friend of mine, and she would always give me the report back, and just the stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
So. And I've had other experiences like that throughout my lifetime, and I just got to a point.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna be me.
Exactly.
And if people don't like it, lump it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm not going to live my life by people's standards and expectations.
Exactly.
Because you know what it's like? When you do that, it's like a void that'll never be filled.
Exactly.
Because I wrote it in my autobiography, if you read, that time when I quit my music.
Yeah.
I gave up my music for a whole year.
Yeah.
I didn't practice or anything. I just quit. And I took that stupid job at the Holiday Inn. Not that I have anything against the Holiday Inn. I used to get up at 4 a.m, and there were no buses running. So I had to walk there because, see how the whole thing started, people kept telling me how I should live, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, maybe I should just do what they say. So I quit my music, took this job. I'd get up and mop that hotel early in the morning. I used to shine brass in the bar and clean the bar up from people who were drinking the night before, and just just living my life the way everybody thought I should. And I thought people would be satisfied. And after a while, it was like, okay, Asaph, you're doing this here. Now, why don't you do this and why don't you do this?
Yeah,
and it was like nobody was satisfied when I was living my life the way they thought I should. And after about a year later, On Switch came on. I'm like, I'm going back to music. If I'm going to get comments, I might as well get comments doing what I love.
Exactly.
So I went back to music.
Well, that's whole punk rock philosophy. Now, the odd thing is, I did, I was such a hippie, such a pacifist. I did cut my hair and I did trim my beards. I was going, let's live together in peace. That's okay, man. Don't get hostile. I didn't say that, but the boss was shocked and she let me still remain on the job, but she was really chagrined. She thought that either I was going to say, I'm not gonna take that from you, or I was gonna come in with a chainsaw going, and be a violent threat. She was afraid of me because of my long hair and long beard. She thought he was either drunk or angry or mentally ill, but she was shocked that I cut my hair and did all that, and I wasn't a threat to anybody, but she was afraid of me. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
She had this idea that I was a psychopath or losing my mind because I had long hair and a long beard and trying to be a hippie, or whatever I was trying to be,
Yeah, it's just that conforming,
Yeah, exactly. And how many people who have excellent suits, excellent ties, are involved in criminal activity, like the mob or some other thing, and they're involved in the worst stuff? I mean, the mob, they dress wonderfully, impeccably, but they're dangerous criminals, But they fit into society, I mean, politely, considered whatever, and people who wouldn't know that they're in the mob or whatever, just by looking at them, hey, I trust them with my kids, and that's very disturbing to me,
Yeah, but no, I mean, the thing is, it's the concept of this conforming thing that says you have to do a certain thing by a certain age or dress a certain way or whatever. Now, I could see it if you were maybe in the clergy or maybe a manager in a department store. But what I'm saying is that I guess people shouldn't judge, especially managers necessarily.
Exactly.
In fact, I was at a mall once years ago too in California, and I went to apply for this job here, and there was this Hispanic fella that I guess he was assistant manager. And I noticed he kept looking at my shirt, and he didn't want to give me an application because he thought my shirt wasn't pressed enough. I had like a few wrinkles, and I'm thinking, dude, I was wearing this shirt all day. It's going to get wrinkled anyway. Yeah. But he looked at me, and he didn't want to give me an application because he thought my shirt was not pressed and creased enough. Seriously, that's a true story. And I was like, this is just ridiculous, these rules. That
Exactly.
yeah, you want to keep yourself up, and I understand that. But when it gets to the point where it becomes almost a judgmental thing on somebody's character or personal.
It is,
not knowing.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I just got to a point in my life where I'm just going to... I'm not talking about breaking the law. Just live
exactly
the way I see it, and if people don't like it, that's not my problem.
And I don't know how many people, people have thought when I had my mohawk, leather jacket, and everything, that it meant crime, that I was a criminal element, and I wasn't. Just people were afraid of me. People cursed at me, screamed at me, "You punk rock figure," whatever. And, gave me evil looks, and just were horrified at me, and just were angry at the way I dressed and looked. And
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I love this song. Santa Lucia. Well, thanks for coming today and doing this with me.
Yeah. Oh, I've had old people who hated me. I remember I was sick with the flu. This is a true story, and I had to go to the doctor, and I was in the waiting room sick with the flu or whatever I had. And this old elderly gentleman came up to me and said, "What Mohawked Indian tribe are you?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sick." And then he said, "Pig." And I sent him pig. And his wife said, "Please, George, please, let's go." And then finally, they took off. His wife was afraid I was going to beat him up or something. And then I finally had to, go to my doctor's appointment because I was sick with the flu. But I was feeling terrible, and I didn't need that then when I was absolutely having a fever and feeling terrible,
Yeah, that's just our culture.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
But I've learned in life, I think a person should be themselves.
They should, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think people should live the way others think they should live. Because, like I said when I wrote in my book, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you live your life by people's expectations and standards, it's never going to be enough. It'll always be something else or something else or something else. You know, like
there will be.
You know, like when you give in to that, like I did.
And then they own you. They own your life. You're no
longer
I mean,
I literally quit playing for a whole year and was doing everything that people thought I should. It was never enough. Nobody was ever satisfied and stuff like that. So, and another thing, too, that I wrote about, these people that were telling me how I should live, these were the same people that were telling me what I should do, but they weren't doing anything to help me to do the very thing they said I should be doing. And I had that happen too. Or they didn't want to get out of bed to take me to the hotel in the morning knowing no bus was running.
Yeah, exactly.
And at night, my music would be calling me.
Exactly.
It's not in an audible sense, but you know what I mean? It's like...
You want to play your music.
Yeah, it's like that scene in that movie, The Great Caruso. Did you ever see that?
Never heard of it.
It's Enrique Caruso was a famous opera singer in 1910. He was like considered the best opera singer that ever lived. So years later, when they did a movie based on his life, they called it The Great Caruso. And they had a scene where Caruso's character, he was singing on the street corners. You know how sometimes musicians sing in the street corners?
Yes.
And, you know, that's not like a job in a 9 to 5 sense.
Right.
But you would be surprised how much money these street performers make.
Yeah?
Really.
Whoa.
Like you go to New York and they're getting tips.
Yeah?
When I was in New York, they would be like, have hundreds rolled up, literally playing on the street corner. And some of those street musicians wound up on Letterman and stuff like that.
Amazing.
You know? But see, the point that I'm making is getting back to the Great Caruso. He was singing on the street corner and people were throwing money, right? And he had invited his girlfriend at the time and the girlfriend's father. And so the father looked at this guy singing, and it didn't make any difference that this guy was a brilliant singer. All this dad could see was, I'm ashamed. He's a beggar. So the father tells Caruso, why don't you just get a job working with me in my factory, and you can stay with my daughter and just date my daughter and just work for the family. So Caruso takes the job for a while, similar like what I did, you know. And then he would be miserable because he really wanted to sing. He didn't want to work in the family restaurant. So finally, Caruso, these two opera singers walked into the restaurant, and Caruso sings for him, and he was a hit. So they tell him he should go to the Metropolitan and just get a job singing and work his way up. So here's where I'm going with this story. If Caruso quits working at the restaurant, he'll lose his girlfriend. See? Because the girlfriend is the daughter of the father. So he had to choose between following his goal and his dream and singing and losing his girlfriend, or keep his girlfriend and don't pursue the opera. Yeah. See? So he chose the opera, so him and his girlfriend ended up breaking up. And that's
fascinating. Well, it's like a punk rock song I have. It was excellent. It's from one of my Discord collections, and I can't remember the artist. It was excellent. It was like outside looking in. You know, I'm outside looking in. Reject of society, and I won't bow down to them if they won't accept me. Dun 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 dun. Dress this way, dress that way, doing your best. Half the world spend their life looking like the rest. Grow your hair, shave your head, can't please them all. If I can't please everyone, I won't try at all. I'm outside looking into the reject of society, and what? I won't bow down before them if they won't accept me. Dun, dun, dun. It was angry, and actually he used some profanity that I can't repeat.
Right,
it was like, it was awesome. That's how I have always felt, and this was even before I went punk rock. This is before I became a punk rocker, and I could. Have I ever told you how I became a punk rocker?
Go ahead.
Now I know probably a lot of people don't like MTV, but I did. A friend of mine, and I was a friend. We were talking about MTV.
I remember MTV.
Yeah, and I asked him, are there any shows on MTV with very strange music? With odd videos, because I'm really not an MTV fan with music videos of anything. And he said there is a show called 120 Minutes that I cannot figure out. And I asked, the videos or the music or the lyrics? He said both. And I said, mind if I try this? I'd like to watch MTV's 120 Minutes. It was on Sunday night.
I remember when MTV first came out. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, this was in 1988 or so, 89. and I was hooked on MTV's 120 Minutes. It had a whole bunch of new wave and punk rock bands and surreal stuff, like The Cure and the Smiths, and the videos were so strange. Like there was one person, and I was about laughing myself, like trying to eat these things, and I'm on like these planes, and this weird music. Like I am about laughing and laughing and laughing, and it was bizarre, and some of the music was weird, and the videos were even stranger, you know, and something about, I think it was New Order, he had these people jumping up and down and slapping each other, and I can't even remember what the song was about, in these very strange punk rock videos, and I loved it. And
I see, yeah. And you found your niche right there, you know.
Right, and I started studying it, and I started getting the bands. Like, what was my first one? Because there used to be a place called Ron's Roost, Snows, and it had audio tapes, and people would get rid of their audio tapes. And I thought maybe I could get some of those punk rock bands with their whole, because Missoula's so conformist. If they saw punk rock, they would want to get away. So I got some albums from Iggy Pop. I did get 9 Inch Nails, and I did get Ministry, and I did. And I was able to get some other records like Discord and get those from mail order, and I started loving the music, like the music I was singing. Because actually, my first introduction was Star Trek 4, you know, The Voyage Home. Remember that song we both loved? I Hate You. That was my very first one, introduction. I just love it, and I always have related to that.
Well, you know what I like about your image now is you've taken your punk image and made some positive stuff out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of that.
Yeah.
That traditional presumptive rebellion thing. Because I don't think people in the punk movement when it first came out was necessarily bad like society says. Yeah, I mean, there's bad in everything. I understand that. But I think as a whole, I was never a punk rocker, but from what I understand about that, I think a lot of it was just people who were just wanting to be themselves.
Exactly, that's all it was.
And not live by this certain thing like cut your hair, do this, you know, you have to.
Yeah, and exactly.
I don't know who makes these rules up is my point. Because I went through the same thing. I'm African American. I can't listen to white people's music.
Yeah.
I can't. That's the stupidest.
I know.
Whoever makes these rules.
Exactly.
And I like black music too. I like the Temptations.
Exactly.
I like, you know, all the other African American music, past and present. But I've noticed in the African American world, it's like they won't listen to anything unless it's an African American artist. Because I went through that when I was growing up, and I hated that because I liked Sinatra and so on. And I'm like, why should I miss out on this good music just because their skin is not the same as mine? It's ridiculous, you know.
Anyway, so basically I was collecting more and more tapes and watching more and even getting punk zines. There are punk magazines put out by punk rockers for punk rockers. And a lot of it I didn't agree with, and a lot of it I did. And I was just listening and listening and listening, and I'm getting more and more into it and getting stuff from like, what was that place I tracked? Disc Jockey, and just, I'm really enjoying this punk rock. This makes sense, and I understand where they're coming from, and I love the philosophy. Well, I got, one time at Snow's, or Ron's Roost, I got a tape of the Sex Pistols, one of my favorite bands. We Come For Your Children, kind of a bootleg. Then they had a radio thing, and I'd also gotten The Cure. And basically it said, it was kind of a radio thing, what is punk rock? Well, this Sex Pistols is punk rock, the punk rock movement. Punk rockers have vampire makeup, ripped t-shirts held together with safety pins, spiky hair, dyed hair, black trousers, and something leather jeans, and you can't, and I said, well, I don't want vampire makeup, but I have jeans. I can get jeans, and I can rip up t-shirts, I draw t-shirts, I can spike up my hair, and I did all that. And I was ready. And that's all that did was take me right over the edge, and I was ready to be a punk rocker. Finally, I now know what to do. And then I remember spiking up my hair. It was in middle of March, I can't remember the day, and spiking up my hair to The Cure, Disintegration. If you ever heard The Cure, they're wonderful. I was just hooked on punk rock ever since, and I loved it. And I became a full punk rocker right there. I was just ready for it right there, and I loved it. And I had all the music, and a friend of mine had gone punk in Germany when he was stationed in the army over there, and he had been a high school friend of mine. He shared with me some of his punk rock music, and I even finally found some good beer. I'm not plugging alcohol.
No, I understand that.
I love beer. And there was some microbrews because I hate Budweiser or anything. There was some good microbrews and imports, and I was enjoying this, and like I was ready for the whole shebang. And I kept that. The only reason I had to retire from the punk rock community was because I couldn't slam dance anymore. I mean, I love the Dropkick Murphys. If you can see this t-shirt, I don't know if you can see it very well. A friend of mine gave me this Dropkick Murphys. They're an excellent punk Irish band, and they came to town saying, as I used to be able to slam dance and just slam dance like this in the pitch, just slam like this and not break a sweat.
Yeah.
Well, this time, because I want to do it like for 3 hours straight, I couldn't do it. I mean, thing is, the mosh pit is really, really super intense, and if you're in a super mosh pit, really, slam dancing pit, it's sweaty, you're dying for water. Well, I had some beer and I needed some water, but the next time, the day after, I was bruised up, my legs were bruised. I felt like so exhausted, I was completely bruised up. And
you just knew it was time to stop, yeah.
You're tired, and I prayed about it. Lord, if it's all the same to you, I can't do this anymore. I've got to be physically fit. I think I'd be getting in the way of the punk rockers more than helping if I can't keep up in the slam dancing. And I love slam dancing. It's like an addiction, Lord. It's like the Lord seemed to say, Emmett, what do you want? Whatever you want is okay. And I said, Lord, if it's all right, I think I'll retire. And I never thought I would. I never thought I would retire from the punk rock community.
You may have retired from the movement, but you can still keep the image. And like I told you, if I get that Lawrence Welk thing, I want to use that character of yours, and of course on the cafe.
The reason I don't have the image so much anymore is because I don't want to advertise or make it look like I'm a punk rocker, so I'd be invited by the punks to punk shows and then have the same thing happen and really get injured, because now I think I'm worried I could get injured in a mosh pit. And I don't want that. I can't keep up with the younger kids. I mean, they had so much energy, more energy, because when you're young, you got all that energy. But if you're older, you can't do it so much anymore. And
you can still take what you have, like your show.
Absolutely. I still have the beliefs. I still have the punk rock beliefs, exactly. I still have the beliefs. Kind of like, even if you're not in the Marine Corps, if you're a Marine for life. Even if you've been injured in war and can't do it anymore, once a Marine, always a Marine. And I'm punk rock in my heart. Once a punk rocker, always a punk rocker. I'm not going to conform to society and obey all those stupid social rules. And
I know.
I'm not going to do that.
The rules. Yeah, I know. I don't blame you. I'm like that too. And it used to get me into a lot of trouble growing up.
Oh, same here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
My birth mom, I love my birth mom, but boy, we would clash because she was always trying to get me to be like everybody else. Yeah. And one day I said to my mom, okay, so if everybody jumps off a bridge, are you going to do it too?
Yeah.
After she hit me and told me to get out of her face, but... Yeah. That's the thing, I think people should be themselves.
Yeah. There is one thing, by the way, folks. There is one thing that I've kind of joined as far as when I was a punk rocker. Ever hear of Minor Threat by Ian MacKaye? Ian MacKaye started a band called Minor Threat.
That sounds barely familiar to me. Barely familiar.
He started what is known as the straight edge scene in the 80s. It was kind of it was basically not a set of rules, but it was like, don't drink, don't smoke, don't have premarital sex, and don't do drugs.
So he was doing a positive thing, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It was wonderful. It said, it isn't a set of rules. It's just that I've got my life straight. That's why I have the advantage on you, because, I mean, I saw on my generation all these kids just doing drugs, messing around, doing all this foolish stuff, and I can't fit in with that at all. I don't want to. We can beat that, and as punk rockers, we don't have to do drugs or do all this other bad stuff that's going to harm our bodies. And he said, it's not now I drink, and I have smoked once in a while, but I don't have premarital sex or do drugs. I will not touch drugs at all.
That's interesting you said that, because people that are into the punk movement, if they see a role model, punk guy that says don't have premarital sex or something like that, you can reach those people. Because a guy coming in there with a suit and a tie telling some young kids, and you don't know what their background is or their relationship with their family or their parents, and you tell them don't have premarital sex, they're going to look at you like you're from the moon.
Exactly.
But if some punk guy comes up there who's a role model in their eyes and says it, then you'll reach them.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's all I was saying.
Absolutely.
Well, we got about 15 minutes left. This time just went by so fast. Just talking about this.
Exactly.
And I want to talk about Time Tunnel real quick before we end.
That's perfect.
Irwin Allen has been, well, not him personally because he's gone. MeTV's been showing what they call it, the Irwin Allen Classics.
Oh, cool.
Every Saturday night they have Land of the Giants first, and then Time Tunnel, and then Lost in Space, and
Cool.
then Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and then finally the Planet of the Apes.
Cool.
The television version based on the film. And I've been really focusing on Time Tunnel lately because that's been really catching my attention. I used to watch that show when I was growing up, but I appreciate it more being older now. And James Darren is the star, the singer, James Darren. Really brilliant singer. Pop music, easy listening music of the past. And he's one of the main characters, and he's the creator of the Time Tunnel. And the government was funding this project, but the government was getting impatient because they thought it was a waste of money. They were spending millions and millions on a project, and they didn't see any results. But James Darren is the scientist who created it, so he knew that it was on the verge of being finished. So the government was threatening to pull the funding for the Time Tunnel. That's how the series started. So what James Darren's character does is he says, I'm going to prove to this government that this tunnel works. And it does work, but they hadn't finished it 100%. So when Darren goes in there to make this demonstration that the Time Tunnel works, he gets trapped in there. And that's how the series started. And so his assistant, or the other professor, goes in there to try to save his friend, and they both end up getting trapped. So each week they go to different points of human history, like World War II or the Titanic. But what was interesting was the episode that they recently had, Pearl Harbor. They went back to December 6, 1941, before, the day before the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. And James Darren's character, you might find this interesting, he had carried a burden all of his life. When he was a little boy, he and his mom were sent away from the house because his father was in the military. And they knew that the planes were coming. So to protect his family, Darren's father sends young Darren and his mom off. Just gone.
Yeah.
And so when the planes attacked, young Darren didn't know what happened to his father. He always wondered, what happened to my dad when the Japanese attacked? So as an adult, when he gets sent back the day before, he gets to relive what happened. So older Darren sees himself as a kid just before he's about to be sent off like before. And I just found that very interesting.
Yes.
So when the planes attacked the second time since he was sent back in time, he was an adult. And he was able to go back to where his father was that he couldn't do when he was a kid because he was just a child. And it turns out that his father did die in the attacks. But before his father died, this time Darren got to see his father and find his dad before his father died. And he's like, Dad, it's me. I'm your son. This is what I'm going to look like in the future. And it was just such a moment there. And the father looks at his son and recognized his son. He said, well, I'm glad my son grew up to be a strong, good-looking young man. And it was just such a neat scene that he could get closure, that Darren's character could get closure on that.
Yeah.
But, another thing that was interesting, I'm watching the time, before Darren gets to see his father, he gets captured by the Japanese. And they put him under that truth serum, because that's when they were experimenting with the truth serum. And he's like, where are you from? Who are you working for? And under the influence, he's like, I'm from your future, and I know that you guys are going to attack Pearl Harbor here in a few hours. And instead of the bad guys thinking this guy's telling the truth, they thought it was a mind-altering thing the United States created to deflect the truth serum. Isn't that brilliant writing?
It is.
That's just brilliant writing.
Yeah.
So the Japanese, when they were interrogating Darren under the influence, they thought he was lying. They thought the United States was lying. So, and of course, history says that they lose the war anyway.
Yeah.
But no, that Time Tunnel, that is just such an interesting show to me. Yeah, they just have all these different plot lines. Like when they had the first episode, they went back a few hours before the Titanic sank. And Darren was trying to plead with the captain to turn that ship around and just take it off course a few degrees. And the captain thought that they were just stowaways, first of all, for starting up all this mess and just troublemakers. So the captain puts them in confinement for a while, and just brilliant writing.
Yep.
And there was one woman on that ship that believed that Darren was from the future. And you know how the captain started believing that he was telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Darren says, when this ship hits a few hours from now, you only have about 70 boats. And that's not enough to save the entire crew. And the staff and the captain looked at him and said, how could you know that? Nobody on this ship knows that but us. And Darren says, because I'm from the future. And then he pulls out this newspaper out of his jacket. And he says, look at this date here. This already happened in my time years ago. And he pulled out the paper of the Titanic disaster. So the captain and all the crew was looking at what was about to happen to them that had already happened to Darren, see, if that makes any sense. So the captain believes that this guy was from the future. And so just before the ship hits the iceberg, the captain says, I've got to ask you one thing. Am I going to die tonight? And he says, I'm afraid you are. Because he's from the future, so he knows. And so the captain says, okay, if I'm going to die, I'm going to make sure I save as many people on this ship as I can. Because the captain always stays behind. And that's just brilliant writing to me.
It is.
Brilliant science fiction writing.
It is.
So, yeah, I've been watching Time Tunnel every week, and let's see if I can figure this out here. I'll play it again real quick. My version of it, anyway.
Yeah, there was an excellent bluegrass song years ago about the Titanic. Because, they said it was the unsinkable ship. So, and they were singing about the Titanic, really nice bluegrass, but it had a religious theme. You got to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord. If you go on in your sin, you will find out in the end that you are just as foolish as can be. The Titanic, just beautiful. It just gives you goosebumps. Really nice spiritual hymn about the Titanic, And
Yeah.
You've got to turn to repent. It was brilliant song, but it kind of reminded me of that song. I have it on tape somewhere.
I think that, and I don't mean this judgmentally, they just really thought that ship was unsinkable. They even said even God couldn't sink this ship.
That's going right in the face of God. That's just terrifying.
Well, I'm not saying God caused this ship to sink, but I just think that, I don't think God did it.
Right.
But I think the Lord knew it was going to happen. And I guess the moral of the story is you just can't presume on things.
No, you cannot.
Cocky or arrogant.
No, you cannot.
Not that I'm saying they were arrogant, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So, but that was a bad tragedy. But getting back to science fiction, it's interesting to see these episodes where they go back in these different periods of time.
I wish my VCR was working. I wish I had videotape so I could record all this, but because I just go to bed very early, like 10 or 11. I just can't stay up.
I might be able to make you a copy of the pilot episode of Time Tunnel.
Yeah, or maybe at least do you have the copy of the pilot episode of Land of the Giants?
Yes, I do.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I do have the pilot episode when they first crashed on that
was
planet.
cool.
I have that. Because when they first started showing those Irwin Allen films, they showed the pilot episodes.
Excellent.
They showed the pilot episode of Land of the Giants, how they even got trapped on that planet to begin with.
Yeah, that's cool.
And Time Tunnel, they had the pilot. So I have those two pilots in my collection.
Yeah.
I'm not taping the whole series. I just wanted the pilot episodes. That's all.
Yeah. Even I've learned. I don't know how I learned this, but remember the old Land of the Lost? That was.
Yeah, I didn't watch that as much as I did Land of the Giants.
Yeah, I
Land
love
of the Giants was more interesting.
But that's on MeTV at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30, and they even have Puffin stuff. Something.
HR Puffin stuff.
Yes, they do have that.
I didn't know that.
They on MeTV, but it's like 6 a.m. in the morning or 6:30.
Oh yeah, I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. to watch HR Puffin stuff.
Yeah,
No.
if I had a VCR and redoed it, I know people have said to me about the DVR. You ought to DVR. I had a DVR for a while, but I gave it up because you can't save all the DVR recordings, and you'd have to transfer it to a DVD. And I wanted something where I could just stack all my videotapes and have piles of videotapes of Land of the Giants and Land of the Lost and HR Puffin stuff, and that would have been cool. That would have been really cool. On and on, because they used to timer. On a VCR, have a timer recording, and while you slept, it would just come on. I'd love to do that.
Well, Land of the Giants, I really like that show. I'm surprised they haven't made a Land of the Giants movie yet.
They should.
I know, they should. And, of course, Time Tunnel is a good show, too. I'm surprised they haven't made a movie of that either.
But yeah, I'm a late sleeper. I get up at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I got up at about 9:30
Yeah,
today.
I like to do that too. I slept in a little bit today.
Yeah.
Now, my final words before we close. I don't know if you know Noelle McAvoy is leaving Wake Up Missoula.
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, she's going to be moving, and I'm going to miss her.
Yeah, definitely.
She's such a good reporter.
Fascinating.
Oh my goodness, it's just been such fun.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Noelle, you're going to be well missed when you leave.
Yep.
But I wish her all the best.
Mm-hmm.
Wake Up Missoula. It won't be the same anymore without her. But Scott is creative. I think he'll find a new way to keep that going and so on. Any final words you want to say? Because it's time for us to close.
A surreal joke. Fascinating. Something new. Let's see. There were these two washing machines, and they went to an easy listening station to listen to all the easy listening tapes, and very fascinating. But then this one, and they were splashing around in the coffee cup, because there's coffee at an easy listening station. And this one driver said, "Oh, I can't see around that. Ha ha." I'm running out of surreal jokes as I've told so many. No pressure. Anyway.
They never get old as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful.
People comment about those jokes that have watched this show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I think they're funny. They're so different that they're funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's time to sign out of here. And when I leave, just make yourself home. I'll just walk around here and I'll shut everything down. I am Asaph Adonai, and this is Asaph Cafe, and we're just talk, you know?
Yeah,
Emmett and I having a one-on-one. And I'm glad you got to talk about the history of your show and the punk movement. How I got into it.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
thought that was interesting. Thanks for the sandwich, too.
Oh, certainly.
Did you get this at the Wardens?
No, I got it at a memorial for Mike Fellows. I got some leftovers, so yeah.
Oh, okay, memorial. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry he's gone.
I know, very much, Went to his memorial, very nice. And
that was today, right, his memorial?
No, it was about last Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, last Saturday, yeah.
All right. Well, it's time to sign off. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Asaph, and affectionately our aging rocker. So until our next show, Maranatha. To spin inside the dryer. Well, make yourself at home, and I'll shut everything down. Oh.